I'm Katie Cowan, and this is the Creative Boom Podcast. For episode 71, my guest is Dave Smyth, a designer and developer based in the UK. Over the last few years, Dave's become increasingly interested in privacy and surveillance capitalism. He sometimes shares his thoughts on this via his blog, from looking at our permanent digital records and de-Googling ourselves to read receipts, Twitter lists and cookies. I wanted to chat with Dave about all of these matters and much more, particularly as so much is happening in the tech world right now and really affect us all, including Facebook rebranding itself as Meta, the increasingly noisy conversation about privacy, and recent leaks that have shocked the world. We certainly cover a lot. Digital minimalism, social media holidays, managing Twitter and removing all followers, data, tracking, cookies, the value we get back from these platforms, Facebook, Google, advertising. These are themes that have possibly entered the realm of death, funerals, and pensions. We don't like to talk about them. It's easier to just ignore them and hope that they go away. But if you've been thinking about how you use these apps, email, software, and browsing the web, then Dave will definitely leave you something to think about. But first, a word from our sponsor, Capture One. It creates world-class tools for editing, organising, and working with photos. A leading innovator, Capture One strives to meet the needs of visual creators everywhere. Go to captureone.com to find out more. But now, here's my chat with Dave. So we're going to start by talking about web and social media, which is kind of like a mutual topic of interest between you and I. We have talked about it privately, haven't we, here and there, and you know the highs and the lows, and our privacy, how we cook back. And you've been on a bit of a mission yourself over the years, doing this exact thing. But what sparked it?
Do you mean the cutting back on tech, or like the digital minimalism stuff? Or
yeah, because there's a lovely chap called Cal, isn't there? Cal Newport, who does this he did this famous digital minimalism. I think I shared it in an article on Creative Boom, and it's a real eye opener, isn't it?
Yeah, I think read it. So he wrote a book called Digital Minimalism, and I read that, I think, at the start of the pandemic, and it just really shifted my view of things. I've sort of become a serial side project person, and what happens, what I found I do is I create something and then stupidly create a social media account or something, and then it would just get it was just quite hard to work and focus and stuff, particularly at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, when I read that, it just completely shifted my perspective on tech and social media and how I use it. And there are a couple of really useful things that I took away from it. The first is that if you want to find out how useful a social media platform is, firstly, you just take a break from it for 30 days and then don't tell anybody. And then reintroduce it really intentionally, and then in those 30 days you'll have an idea of what you're missing from it, or if you miss it at all.
It's mad, isn't it? We think that, oh my God, people are going to notice that I haven't tweeted about my boring life.
It's a real ego crush.
It really is. And then when you come back, you think, oh, actually, yeah, it's not a big deal, and I'm not a big deal. How did this happen?
Yeah, and the other thing he talks about is that there are two types of interaction. There's a high quality interaction, which is this, having a chat with somebody, or meeting somebody, or having a phone call, or even an email is a high quality interaction, and thinking about the value of that over something doom scrolling and liking a few posts, or all of those low quality interactions that we do loads of, and thinking about that and how much value you actually get out of some of the platforms.
Yeah.
So
are you saying that my constant sort of, looking at reels about silly cats doing dances to music and, little baby goats, is that just meaningless and I need to sort of, take a long, hard look at myself?
not if you get a lot of joy from it.
Well, exactly.
It can.
But what's annoying is those platforms know that I have a soft spot for goats and cats and various sneakers. And then, of course, that informs what they share and what they know about me. And, when you start thinking about it from that small, like little acorn, it grows into a much bigger tree when you realize that actually all these massive tech giants have a profile on us, really. And it's free. We willingly share our photos, our locations, our thoughts, our darkest feelings. It's quite scary that I think a lot of us tend to put our head in the sand about it and try to hope that we're safe in numbers, I guess.
Yeah. It's funny because I haven't got any like solidly formed thoughts about this in particular, but it strikes me that a lot of the principles of digital minimalism cross into being like privacy focused and have a sort of privacy benefit if you follow them. It's funny as like thinking about like sharing location willy-nilly. There's a really good post by Tim Ferriss, the 4 hour what was the book called? The 4 Hour Work Week.
4 Hour Work Week.
Or something like that. And so he became there's a post where he talks about being sort of like internet famous, because I guess he is like properly internet famous, kind of in the world. He's known like in real life as well, but he's not like a properly famous guy. And he talks about the changes he had to make, because even at his level of success, which is still like wildly successful, but it's not appearing in, whatever D-list magazine famous. He talks about like how he would turn up to an airport and there'd be like somebody there waiting to pick him up who wasn't the taxi company that he booked. And there's a really great blog on his site about that, and obviously that's quite extreme in some ways, and
yes,
but yeah, we think that there isn't much harm in sharing and volunteering this stuff, and it's nice to say that I've like checked into this place and X, Y, and Z, but unless we're going to go through and like delete all of that stuff later, we can be like subtly like building a profile of ourselves that somebody with like nefarious motives can this got dark quite quickly, but
no, it's good. It's helpful to the listeners to, if this is a subject that they've been thinking about recently and mulling over. I'm this is why I wanted to chat with you, because it's something I worry about. It's something that you've worried about, and it's becoming more and more of a thing that's being discussed. I mean, obviously there's a lot going on at the moment in America with Facebook, and there's lots of things that are being disrupted. It's too complicated to get into now. But for the purpose of this conversation, and you and I are both, we're not experts at all on this subject, but we're curious, and we're trying to sort of lead a more balanced life, because in a way we kind of still need these things to run our businesses, because we run communities. You run various things which we'll come on to later. So it is a sobering theme, but I really hope that we get something positive out of this. And just, if just one person listening to this goes, oh, actually, maybe I should delete that, and maybe I should think about more of what I'm sharing, because it can bring out a lot of negativity. Think of stalking. Somebody could just sort of take a beeline for you and say, oh, well, I can work out where, because they've shared a picture of their house, I can work out where that is, and I can stand outside their house. It's a bit terrifying.
Yeah, and it can sound a bit like tinfoil hatty, but there are like real consequences to these things, and like talking about Facebook, not that you want to get particularly into that, but I read yesterday that they that when the different reactions that you can put on posts on there, they're not all weighted the same. So for instance, like a like might have like a value of like 1, and like an angry reaction would have a value of like 5, meaning that angry posts that cause an angry reaction are more widely shared and more prominent on the platform. So even if it doesn't get to thinking of like the sort of like physical harms on us, there are like all sorts of like societal knock-on effects of this stuff that is much more pervasive and subtle than we realize.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we give it away so willingly and for free. And but there was also this book by Edward Snowden, Permanent Record, which I think you've just finished reading this summer. I've not yet read it. I've read some snippets, and it does serve as a really big wake up call. But there's, in a sense, I'm like, I wonder, do people even really care, or is it that they're not really aware of the consequences yet?
Yeah, it's. Yeah, that's a good question. So I was thinking about this. I think like even a few years ago, I didn't really. I thought that like Facebook, whatever, you give them your data and they give you the platform, and seems kind of fair enough. But I think the more you learn about it, it's like pulling at a piece of string. Like you think like you're pulling like a short piece of string, and then like you're just learning more and more and more about it. And when you start to piece the things together, and you see like the wider harms that can be caused, you start to think, wow, is that really worth it? I just read, there's a really great book by Tim, I think it's Tim Huang, called Subprime Attention Crisis. And he talks in there about like target behavioral ads, which are the ones that track you all around the web, where you go on Facebook and you see the sneakers you just looked at, or like a goat for sale.
The Nike Air Force Ones. Yeah. Damn, they're following me around.
and the all the sorts of problems with that, and there are plenty of case studies where companies have ditched that altogether and seen no harm from using contextual ads, which are the ads where what you search for is what you see. And I think after all of this Facebook stuff, we're going to see a lot of changes, and I think there'll be a lot of interesting stuff come out.
Regulation.
Well, possibly regulation, but possibly discovery, and because there are lots of like court cases flying under the radar,
which we can't discuss. But it is literally like the Wild West at the moment, and basically the tech giants have come up with this what is incredible, service for us, the world, but. I wonder if they even realised how much it would change the world, how much it would become this huge thing. And now it's, of course, all the governments and everything are trying to catch up and find a way to sort of calm it down. I don't even think that the tech giants themselves really, I'm not, I'm trying to be very neutral here, because I don't think the tech giants are these evil, horrible things. I think they exist to make money, and they're in this kind of situation where it's been a very organic thing that's grown and exploded, and now it's this sort of, dare I say it, monster that we're all still trying to sort of navigate and figure out. And yeah, I think you're right. I think there'll be a lot of positive that comes out from things that are happening at the moment, and hopefully we can move forward and still have these things in our lives, but with more of a kind of balance and a fairness that ensures that we don't have to worry too much about our data being shared or sold and all the rest of it. But anyway, well, for a start, there's analytics. I mean, we removed Creative Boom from Google Analytics in the middle of last year. It's part of our kind of mission to de-Google ourselves. We now use Plausible, which is a very sort of privacy-focused analytics tool. I was a little bit worried about it because obviously we work with clients and advertisers to reach our audience, but it's overall been massively, massively positive. So I'm really proud to say we don't have any cookies on our site. We don't have any third-party JavaScript either. So for advertisers, if there's any sort of display ads, they're just first-party hosted. So we request a banner image and a link to add to our platform, and that's it. And I'm so proud of that.
How's that gone with really the proud. Advertisers? Has it been fine to like, in terms of like anything that they've wanted to see? How have they reacted to that?
They've been amazing. I didn't realize how much we could sort of lead that conversation. And when we sort of angle it with, we really respect our audience, because we do, and they're our community, our lifeblood, and we don't want to annoy them. So we don't work with advertisers that are irrelevant. We're not going to sort of put out spammy content that's just going to be annoying. We always want to add value and do something that's relevant for them. And we don't want to track them. And they've been amazing about it. They've said, we really respect really cool. that. But I think that it's part of the perfect storm that's going on. I think people are just more and more aware of being, these brands for good. And they're on board with it. It's great.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I'm quite often having that conversation with clients about analytics or different services that they might use. I guess being a designer and developer, I'm in a good position to help people, and it's amazing how receptive people are, and how there's that phrase that like defaults are important, and I guess that extends to like how visible things are and what people are recommended, and people end up using these things because they're told to, or they search for it and it's like the first thing that comes up. It's not everybody's job to be like a privacy expert. so it's amazing actually how open people are to changing their
toolkit.
Yeah, or like what they're measuring, or
it's great because like freelancers do have, like yourself, have a lot of power with clients, because clients are often busy. They hire you for your expertise. And as a web developer and designer yourself, you can turn around to them and say, well, actually, I recommend this hosting provider. I recommend this analytics tool. Have you thought about this? It's a joy when they listen, isn't it? And you can say, look, you can own this. And that's what I love about Creative Boom. We own the fact that we don't have any cookies on our site and don't track people, which is wonderful. Yeah, we know how many people come on. We know how, roughly where they are. We don't know whether they're male or female. We don't hold a lot of data about our audience. And it's amazing that we did use Google Analytics before, but to be completely honest with you, in the same way a lot of your clients might be, you just didn't really think about it.
So you end up collecting like all this like surplus data for no reason. And something else is that there are quite often like business benefits to it as well. So like when you choose these options, so with like Google Analytics, that will never be picked up, or users who have like an ad blocker will never be tracked by a site, because it just strips out the Google Analytics code. So it's like they've never been on the site, or you can pitch these things in different ways, and often there's like a really good user benefit or business benefit along with it as well.
Definitely. And it makes us feel good inside, knowing that we're sort of running ethical businesses, or trying our best to, because it is such a new territory for many of us, and we're still learning. And it's a huge, overwhelming list as well of things to tackle. I mean, like I've got 2 days completely blanked out over the Christmas break, where I'm going to focus on a couple of things that have been on my list for a couple of years, because I just never get round to it. And, it suits the platforms that we use that we're like that. And it's not that we're lazy. It's just that, I suppose, A, we don't know where to start, and B,
it's work.
We just don't have the time. So it's kind of like, it is work to reduce our digital footprints. So you moved yourself away from Gmail recently, and you've started to use a privacy-focused email service. That's another thing that I have to tackle on my list, because that in itself is like, if you're using a free service with perhaps somebody like Google, obviously that comes with some tracking and some... I don't. You see, this is where I start to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. Which, to be honest, I don't.
Well, with like Gmail, for instance, there's a reason that Amazon stopped including the order details in the confirmation emails. If you ever noticed that, if you bought from Amazon, they used to include like what you bought in the order, and then they stopped. And the perceived reason for that is that Google scanned the contents of your email. Think about the industry that Google are in, which is surveillance capitalism. That just fuels, it might be that that's fueling like their ads or like the data that they're building on somebody.
They do talk about this in their kind of terms, don't they? They sort of say that sometimes we'll tailor content. So it's not that they're sort of doing anything that they're not telling us about, really the kind of whole purpose of Google is to sort of make us have a better browsing experience and to be able to find the things that we want more easily. But yeah, I mean, there's things like spy pixels as well, isn't there? Which I had no idea about until I actually, because I'm a regular reader of your blog, and I had no idea what spy pixels are. And that's another thing that I'm going to tackle over Christmas. And I love that in your email signature, you say, this email doesn't track you. I love that.
Well, that was something that I first heard about a few years ago with, there's an email service called Superhuman. And when they launched, I think, I've never used it, but I think it sits on top of Gmail or something like that. And when they launched, I think by default, it tracked, it sent like a red, it included a pixel.
Read receipt.
Yeah, a red receipt. Yeah, exactly. And, but the thing is that with that technology in email, it tends to report like every time you open it, like where you are, and like what time you opened it. But it also it can normally include your like location as well. So when people send like blasts, like newsletter blasts and things, if they're using a service like MailChimp or something, often they can click through to an individual subscriber and see every time you've opened it, what time you opened it,
where you were.
Possibly where you were. And because the technology is so basic, it's like a really old technology. If you unsubscribe from the mailing list and then you go back to an email that you read that you were sent and open it again,
still
it will still track it because they can't strip it out.
Grief.
So there are things you can do like you can use like lots of email email apps and things.
I've heard of Proton. Is it? Proton's pretty good.
Yeah, Proton's pretty good. But there are lots of services like email readers that will block.
I see.
That will either like not load
so
images.
Like things you can use in your browser.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've used like an email service that says like can't see the images, then that's because they're trying to block the pixels.
That's so clever, because I think I do that in terms of like cookies on other sites. I'm actually just going on to Creative Boom now to find my article on privacy, because I really enjoyed doing that, and I think you helped me a lot with that as well, which I'm very grateful for. And it was about how to get your privacy.
Oh, yeah.
How to get back your privacy online without completely checking out. And I think you really, like, we had such a long conversation and we were going through it, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Yes. So Mozilla is a really lovely browser, a non-profit, and it has a whole incentive behind it that they don't track you and that the internet's for people, not profit. So I tend to use that. But annoyingly, I keep going back to Google Chrome, because a lot of websites that I use, including this one where we record the podcast, works better on Chrome. And dare I say it, Google make amazing products. They do. I've used them for years, and and a lot of them are completely free.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but they're being funded. They're being funded by what some might call like nefarious activities. But it's interesting with like the browser thing. I think this is one of the difficult things with something like Google is that they're so big and their services are so embedded like across the web. So with the browser, they're basically like Chrome is like by far the most popular browser. And one of the reasons for that is because they've got so much money to throw at development that
of course,
that their team is like so much bigger than such as like Firefox's team, or even like Apple now. Like obviously, like Apple could throw like billions at their development team if they wanted to, but for some reason they don't want to. So you end up in a situation where there's almost like a monopoly on and browsers and things, and which isn't particularly healthy for the web, but that's another quite technical topic.
Well, there are a couple of things. Yeah, well, it's a whole other conversation, but there are a couple of quick fixes, aren't there, that people can do? There are lots of kind of so you can use a privacy-focused web browser. That's for one. And you can use a search engine like DuckDuckGo, and obviously, that's a great kind of. I think it's like It was like, did it come out of the kind of Hacker News community? Was that sort of like a Y Combinator?
I don't know.
But anyway, I think you can donate to them and help them to improve, and they're getting better and better as well. I remember when I first started using it years ago, it was a bit pants, dare I say it, but that's only because it was a new sort of little thing, and it's since got loads better. And you can also you can check your privacy settings on your smartphone and your tablets, and you can go to settings on Safari on your iPhone and scroll down to privacy and security and switch on prevent cross-site tracking, which is pretty good, or block all cookies, or ask websites not to track me, that kind of thing. And then you can change your default search engine to DuckDuckGo. So whenever you want to type something in and search for something, it's just immediately in this privacy focused search engine, which is great. So there's little steps you can take, but the rest of the things that we have to do involve I'm just looking at the next thing I plan to do with Twitter, which we'll come on to. I think that's going to take me about 3 or 4 days. But I am so grateful for these social media platforms, because without them, I wouldn't have Creative Boom. I wouldn't have been able to build an audience and a community. And I don't think I could let them go now, because that's how I kind of talk to people. That's how I reach out to people. So it's a very tough scenario that we find ourselves in.
It's a balance, but it's just like making it work for you and doing what you can to protect yourself as well from whatever you feel like you want to be protected from.
Yeah, exactly. It's not necessarily, the services that we use are evil. It's the sort of potential outcome of sharing our lives online, sharing our thoughts, our opinions, our locations, all the rest of it. There's implications potentially. So Twitter sparked our conversation about all this, because I noticed you stopped following me on Twitter, and I thought, I thought we were mates. What's that all about? And then I started to look at your profile, and I realized that you had done this thing where you'd basically deleted all of your you deleted everyone you were following. So you don't follow anyone, and you now just follow lists. I mean, can you tell me a bit more about that? It's fascinating. Yeah,
it's a funny one, because I used to think whenever I saw somebody who didn't follow anybody, I thought that is so arrogant. But I read this article by I think it was by Anil Dash about how he'd done this, and I'm not sure when I did it. I think it might have been about a year ago. A little under a year ago or something. Right. And it's been really interesting. I think tying back into the pandemic and just general social media fatigue, it's so easy to get dragged into reading reply after reply of
we have
like,
so much
toxic
info bombarded at us every day. It can get very overwhelming. We're just not programmed as us humans. We're not programmed to in take in so much visual content, reading videos, data, constant. We're not designed to. No wonder we're all exhausted.
Yeah, exactly. And like, it's just the way these platforms are designed are there to grab your attention and hold it as long as possible. So,
yeah.
So I thought I'd try this. And so the first thing I tried was using TweetDeck, which is an app. I think it's like one of the old school apps.
It is old school.
Yeah, and
yellow and black, isn't it?
It's blue now, but the interface is it's not amazing, but it's fine. And one of the really cool things about TweetDeck is that you can organize like how you like use Twitter. So instead of having to use like the timeline, you can set like the first thing you see is like a list or a couple of lists if you're organized. I'm not organized. I just have a timeline basically. But the timeline gives you like more, using a list gives you a bit more control. So anyway, so I found that there's no app for that for a phone. And also I'd removed the Twitter app from my phone. So when I use Twitter on my phone, it's only like in the browser. So like I have to log in, and there's like a little barrier there. So I don't
it's
do
good,
it.
clever. Stops you from doing it too much.
Yeah, and because of that, using the list means that when I load Twitter, it doesn't just show me things from like people I follow. So now it actually shows people. Now it shows things from the lists that I have, but it gives me a bit more. It gives me a bit more control. So the downsides is that I can't follow anybody who has a locked account. So that's one thing that you can't really get around. But
you've also really annoyed a load of people who thought they were mates with you, and you've just got rid of them.
Well, everyone's on the list now. So, but actually, one of the cool things about it is that it removes like that pressure to like, follow or like not unfollow somebody.
Yes.
Which,
because that's another task that's been added to our lives.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's a bit like read receipts. Like if somebody's happy to share whether they've read their message or not, that doesn't mean that the other person should have to share that. Which is often like the trade-off. Like you can often only turn on read receipts if you also share whether you've read something or not, which is weird. Right. And it's a bit like that with like follows. Like there are probably almost as many people that I was following in my timeline now, but it's not the same list. And you don't have to like worry about like offending. I've just offended everybody in the same way. So
which is great. I love it because, it is one of those tasks that we have, somebody's followed me, I should probably follow them back. And it's incredible growing up as we both did in a time where we didn't have social media. The amount of time we had, the amount of spare time to focus on other things other than, these like businesses we run and trying to ensure we don't, not offend anyone. What I mean is make someone feel like you're ignoring them, because it's like emails. If you don't respond to an email, you feel, am I being rude? That's not very professional of me. I should at least respond in some way. I can't imagine how much, Tim Ferriss would feel about dealing with his inbox. But I think doing that, it just frees you, doesn't it? Because you're then, and I noticed as well, I don't know if it's still in your Twitter bio, but I think you explain it. You say, just following lists now.
Yeah, I did that because I didn't want, I guess for my ego. I was just, because I'd always thought wow, why don't they follow anybody? And if you see an account that doesn't follow anybody, I thought it was a good way to explain it.
Yes.
Strange
how like a social cues popped up from just something like Twitter. Like how it's like how this new, relatively new platform has created new social
norms,
courtesies. It's fascinating. I really find that part interesting. So you deleted all your tweets as well. You got rid of all your tweet history.
Yes. So so there's actually an app I use for that like auto deletes every.
Great.
I think it's every like 3 months or something.
What's it called?
I think it's called Tweet Delete. It costs.
Oh.
I think it costs like £10 or something. It's like a one-time fee, but it's very good.
Tweet Delete. Now, the only worry I have with that, if I kind of use something like that, Twitter obviously doesn't like it when we use third-party services to do things like this because it goes against their kind of, ethos. Is there a risk that we might sort of get ourselves suspended or banned if we sort of use these third-party tools, or are they a little bit more lax about it these days, given everything that's going on and people trying to sort of claw back a bit of privacy, perhaps?
I don't know the answer to that question.
So it's a bit of a risk, isn't it?
If we
kind of deleted everything.
But I think I have a feeling that the person who created that might talk a bit about that on their site, because so there's like a free version of this, but it will only delete something like, I think it's like 3,200 tweets or something like that. That's
yes,
like
I think it is.
That's like the maximum that Twitter will allow you to do.
Yeah,
and I think the way this works is you have to kind of trust it a bit, but you like log in and then it does it like programmatically. I tried to do it. There are other methods for doing this, like through the Twitter API, and it was a spectacular waste of a couple of hours as I completely failed to do it. So I wouldn't recommend that for anybody except actual developers, which I'm kind of not really.
Yes. Yeah, because there are a few kind of sort of advice pieces on the web that I've found from developers that provide a sort of code where you can sort of, it sort of auto does it all for you. But it's, again, a bit of a hack.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure Twitter wouldn't be too happy about that. So I'll probably go with something like Tweet Delete or Circle Boom or something like that and see how far I go. And I'll test it out with my own personal, because, I mean, really, it's just a social network. If I get banned, then... and then I think, oh gosh, all those people I followed. Well, all that time I spent.
Look into it, but I noticed that some people did that, and I thought it was a really interesting idea, because we're living in an age now where like everything is. Edward Snowden talks about this at the beginning of his book, actually, that when he grew up on the web, it was a very different time, and it was possible to explore ideas with anonymity. And learn and make mistakes and learn things without it without in like a fairly free way, and like shape your ideas without there being like huge consequences of some sort of Twitter storm, or whatever.
Yeah, well, Twitter's not the right kind of platform to talk about kind of complicated subjects anyway. I feel like it's too short a platform, and obviously context is so important. So anyway.
Yeah, and I, I'm not talking about like exploring like things that are like completely outrageous here, but I think it's perfectly normal for people's views and opinions to like evolve over time, and
of course.
and it makes Twitter a bit more ephemeral, which I think is like a really, I think that's a good thing. But also, like, here's another angle. Like, it's actually a green thing to do, because when you're building up these like huge archives of like tweets, if you've got like 10,000 or like 20,000 or like 1 million tweets or something, like that all has to be stored somewhere. And obviously it may not be using very much energy. But
Yeah.
But if you're conscious of that, then that's like another reason to like reduce your digital footprint.
We're taking a short break to get a word from our sponsor. Capture One creates world-class tools for editing, organising and working with photos. Want to test the software for yourself? Simply use the code CreativeBoom for 10% off or sign up for a 30-day free trial. Go to captureone.com. Now, back to my chat with Dave. Gosh, I didn't think of it like that because there's a lot of controversy around NFTs, isn't there? And so that is an important point, actually. I suppose I never thought of that. So okay, after this lovely chat, I'm going to go on Tweet Delete and get myself signed up and see what happens. But there's a really interesting guy called Joey McGovern. If you're interested in finding out more about like the digital, like the impact of building up these like huge archives, he's a really interesting person to follow or add to a list. He talks a lot about this, and it's a real eye opener actually when you read this stuff. And we all just think like the internet is free, there's no cost, it's green, but actually there are cost implications.
And we all build these like huge digital things that are stored on the cloud, and we sort of push them away and don't really think about them. But there are consequences to it. Yeah, so it's definitely one to consider. I mean, I do think all of this talk, there'll be people listening to this, and it kind of like sparks off the same feeling we have when we start thinking about pensions or death. Yeah. It's that kind of same thing. It's like, all right, I was talking to my hairdresser about having a pension, and she went very, very quiet when I was talking about it, and then I said, but anyway, it's okay. I mean, we're saving, aren't we? And we changed the subject. But it's one of those things that we don't like to really think about. It's at the back of our mind all the time. We know we have to do something about it. But something just stops us. We're either too busy or we just don't know where to start. And I think a good start would be to maybe look at Twitter and our emails and what services we use, and just the sort of changing of the search engines that we use and the browsers we use and all the rest of it. But I quite like the idea of just getting rid of it all. Yeah. I like the idea of just deleting all my social media, and there are amazing services. I think just delete.me, and then Account Killer. I think they're tools or services that allow you to, they show you how to remove yourself from the various networks, basically. I don't know, it's hard, isn't it? It's like a good friend that we've had over the years that have allowed us to reach out to people we'd lost touch with. We stay in touch with our families that way. It's great for staying in touch with people who've moved to other countries. We justify it in so many ways, when actually you're probably right. When we go back to what we were saying at the beginning of the conversation, are they really kind of meaningful, valuable connections? Or is it better that we just pick up the phone or send an email or a letter? Even just a text, through obviously an encrypted service. But, are there other ways that we can keep connections with people? And really, do we need 500 acquaintances or more? Yeah. And just talking about like the sort of reaction to this stuff of like, how do I get started? I think people can only really you can just take like small steps, and I think like being aware of it is, even if it feels like overwhelming. I don't, when I write about some of these things, I don't expect anybody else to do any of it. But I think just being aware of it, like the next time you think, oh, actually, do I really need that? Will I ever look at it again? And it's the same. It's the same with like privacy things. Like when you start to become aware of it, the next time you encounter something, like maybe it's Apple's new privacy setting where they like let you opt out of an app really easily. Maybe you'd think, you know what, I'm going to opt out just because.
You're now more aware of what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. So you can only you can only do what you can do, and just take like small positive steps, and actually like every small thing you do like builds up to like a much bigger thing. And if you try to do all of this in like immediately, you could probably spend like a month or 6 months or something like cleaning up your like digital background, but which isn't practical for anybody.
I'm sure there's like little studios or consultants out there now who specialize in this. Like if you haven't got the time, and could you from a PR point of view as well, if you're a brand or a business that wants to sort of clean up what's been said on the web, that they've existed for many years. So it's any freelancer or creative professional listening to this, I mean, I hope it sort of makes them have a little think about what they're putting out there, and maybe not like share their front door or on Instagram, or maybe kind of think about how they use Foursquare and things like that, which, by the way, I used to love Foursquare. We went around Kyoto once in Japan just based on other people's experiences and reviews of places. It was wonderful, and it still is great. But yeah, it's just one to think about. But the other aspect of the web and social media, aside from privacy and tracking and all the rest of it, is our mental health. It can sometimes really hurt. Somebody's not following you back, or you sort of see that somebody's unfollowed you, and, we're only human. I'm not going to sort of pretend that I don't, get affected by that. It's something when you talk to people, they kind of admit that these are things that bug them too. And they realize it just as I do, that it's really kind of quite ridiculous, really, because social media is not real life. And then, as a designer yourself in the creative community where everything is so visual and it's right there, there's the anxiety that we sometimes get when we see other people doing great things, and we start to compare. And we think, and even just being sat in front of the telly, if you get bored and you decide to doom scroll on Instagram and you see other people having an amazing life, they're going to that exhibition you didn't get tickets for, or they're out with a bunch of people that as well. And, oh, why didn't I get invited? I'm building up a really sad picture of my life, but it happens to us all. And, I did a poll on Twitter a few months back, and I think 300 people answered, bless them. And most wanted to come off social media, but stayed because they felt they had to. So is it fair to say, Dave, that social media is making us all miserable?
Maybe. It's funny, isn't it? Because I think we all know that when people share stuff, or whatever people share tends to be like it's like the highlight reel rather than the behind the scenes. But even if we know that, it's hard. It's hard not to like have like some sort of reaction if we see something or. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking of like the Frances Hogan stuff with Facebook, and there was that report on teenage girls and like the impact of like Instagram. I think maybe different platforms cause like different reactions, possibly.
Right.
Like Instagram.
We know so little though, don't we? That's the thing. They're such babies, really, that we know so little about how they affect us.
And it's amazing to think of. I think it's either in Digital Minimalism or A World Without Email, which is another Cal Newport book. He talks about like the rise of like mental health issues in teenagers, and there's almost it tracks almost exactly with like the beginning of social media, and that's like the one. And obviously, like correlation isn't causation, but it seems to be
exactly
that there might be some role there. But I think, like you say, it's also young, and our brains, and we haven't evolved to deal with the sorts of pressures and endless stream of notifications and stuff that we get from social media. Like, I think we have to take actions to like try and protect ourselves and like really be intentional about our use, so that we're more in control of the sorts of things that we see and like the reactions we're likely to have and that sort of thing.
And exactly, and it can be very irrational. It can be something very simple, like a fellow illustrator who you follow, whose work is amazing. Every time you see their work, it sets off a trigger in you that makes you spin out of control and go into this kind of, oh, I'm rubbish. I'll never be good. I'll never be a great freelancer. That's probably why I didn't win that project last week, and doom. And then before you know it, you just can't concentrate on any work. Everybody goes through that. So it can be very toxic. And the simple advice with that is to maybe mute that person, maybe go in now and again and give them some love and support, but it's okay to mute them if you don't want to unfollow them, and therefore, they might one day look at your feed and, oh, I thought we were following each other. What did I do? And again, this brings up this whole thing about humans and human relationships and how we behave. It's so easy to forget in our little bubbles, in our little worlds where we're the center of our own universe, that everything isn't about us. Somebody might unfollow you because they just find you too damn good. They can't handle the awesomeness. That's what I tell myself anyway. But freelancers do need social media, I suppose, at the moment. It's kind of, in a lot of ways, Instagram acts as their kind of portfolio of work. I've spoken to a lot of people who run agencies, and it's often one of the first things they look at when a CV drops through. Let's see what they're sharing on Instagram. It's become one of those sort of ticks. And it helps people raise their profile. It keeps them in touch with the audience, or so they think. I don't know. Now, the algorithms changed once again. They've just announced that they're focusing more on being a video platform, I presume, to compete with TikTok, which is becoming more and more popular. And that caused a lot of controversy in our beloved creative industry, didn't it? Because everyone was like, for God's sake, we've just come through a pandemic and now I've got to think about making videos and doing reels. And I think a lot of people just went, no. And it actually tipped them over the edge. And I've noticed quite a few people aren't updating their feeds anymore, or they've left. It's almost like Facebook wants to get rid of us.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's interesting because it's a kind of, if we rely on these like platforms for like marketing and things, which of course we've come to use them, and lots of people have had success with them, and they've been like really useful for connections and meeting other people and forming communities and things. It becomes a point of failure in our business, because we end up relying on another business that can make a decision like, it might not be like Instagram. It might be like a service that suddenly like jacks the price 10 times or something. I saw there was a really interesting blog post by a guy, I can't remember his name, but he was like an affiliate marketer through Amazon, and like overnight Amazon doubled the percentage they took. So that then halved, or it had like a huge impact on his like bottom line. Like overnight, nothing he could do about it. And as soon as you start to think, wow, we're actually like really relying on these services. What happens if your account is suspended for a reason out of your control, or like you say, like an algorithm change or a different prioritization or something? I think there's like a really good case to like try and build up things that we like have control over. Like a classic example would be a newsletter or something like that.
Exactly.
Or a blog,
Or a blog.
or
and they said blogging was dead.
There's a guy called Rand Fishkin who is I think he's like an SEO guy, or used to be possibly, and now he runs something called Spark Toro. And he tweeted about 6 months ago that he'd had a talk rejected, or he'd been asked to remove a couple of slides from a talk he was due to give, because they were slightly critical of Google and Facebook, and presumably they were sponsoring the event or something in them made somebody feel uncomfortable. And one of something he said in that is that like Google and Facebook aren't the reliable in your corner partners that you think they are. And they always talk about being like there for like small business, and they're like helping small business, but actually at the end of the day, they're not. They just want your money and audience and time and attention. So anyway, that's a bit of a rant, but I think it's good. I think it's good to like branch out and like start to, even though it takes time and it's effort, it's good to take control over your audience and try and do things in house and reduce reliance on these third parties.
One of the other side projects that you have is this wonderful thing called Below Radar, which I've just signed up for the newsletter. And it's basically, for anyone who's listening, it's sort of focused around this whole thing of if you're a freelancer and you want to still sort of get your name out there and build an audience and have clients and all the rest of it, market yourself. It's kind of doing it in a privacy-based way. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's for now it's a Discord community.
Great.
And the idea really is it's not about like prescribing like answers or anything like that, because everybody's business and situations are different.
Yes.
And people have like different comfort levels and like of using different things. So it's really there for people who want to like reduce their reliance on like Facebook or Google or techniques that like fuel surveillance capitalism or whatever, and it's a space for them to like share ideas, like talk about what they've tried that's worked for them, ways of like thinking about things. I guess just a space to like explore and share things and try and take like really small positive steps, and see where you can end up.
That's so helpful.
Well, I think the thing is that a lot of these things there's no like overnight thing. So like if you're like heavily invested in like behavioral ads on Facebook, for instance, you're probably not going to turn those off and go cold turkey like overnight. But it might be that you think, actually, we want to spend like 30% of our like ad budget on contextual ads, or maybe we want to start a newsletter that we've not done that before. And what can we do? How can we like build that over like the next 6 months or year, and with a view to reducing our Facebook reliance like significantly, or something like that. That's just an example. But I think there are a lot of people and like business owners and freelancers who are concerned about relying on these platforms, like either for like ethical reasons or because they're out of control of like algorithms, or there are so many reasons to not want to rely on these things. But they're the default for lots of people. Like we were talking about earlier, like people sign up for these things because they find them, it's what they read about in books that they're supposed to do. And then it becomes really hard to extract yourself from them. So, it's really a space for, like I said, for people to explore these ideas and see what they can do.
Super helpful. You don't just, I mean, we've spent the entire episode and it's been wonderful and really helpful talking about all of these kind of things and more. But, you know, we haven't really talked a lot about you, Dave. And you're a web designer and developer by trade, but you used to work in the music industry. Is that right?
I trained as a jazz drummer.
Oh, yeah. Fab.
Yeah, it's not very well paid.
Oh, well,
it's a difficult lifestyle.
Yeah. You could be, you know, playing at all the best New York jazz clubs and by now and not worrying, you know, you'd have to have an Instagram account, of course.
Yeah.
Share some reels. Here's me just warming up for the gig on Madison Avenue.
Yeah, maybe not.
maybe in another life. But so, yeah, now you freelance and you do similar things to what I've done over the years. And you also run Work Notes, which is another community for freelancers. And there are loads of helpful resources on there, loads of stuff that probably deserves another episode with you in future sometime, because I think we're probably going to wrap this up in a minute. But just sort of looking at the discourse community that you have on there, what's been the mood like lately amongst yourselves? How does everyone feel about, you know, going into the new year?
Well, so the community on there is actually like fairly quiet. It's not like inactive, but because it's a forum rather than something like Discord or like Slack or something. It's a place where people like how to describe it? The conversations tend to be like longer form, and people come in like with like really specific problems. So yeah, I'm not sure is the answer.
We'll leave that then. Don't worry about it. So to recap, I think we all really probably need to think about how we run our businesses online, how we conduct ourselves, our social media accounts, our email services, what analytics we use. Yeah, it's hard finding the time. But to sort of like conclude on this, Dave, I mean, what would you advise to anyone listening who are worried about their privacy and even their mental health? You know, what would be the one takeaway you would consider giving them?
I think maybe just to like take it one step at a time, like try not to be overwhelmed by it, because these are such massive topics. Like so much of the stuff we've talked about today, if we wanted to, we could just talk for like 10 or 15 minutes about like loads of the things that we've been discussing, like the individual points.
Gosh, yeah, we could have a whole kind of conversation around just Facebook's privacy settings, for example.
Yeah, and so it's yeah, they're massive topics. They're massively like complex topics, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by it. And there's lots of stuff that I haven't done that I want to do, and not that I'm like an expert in this at all, but like it's something that I'm really interested in and try and keep on top of. But it's hard and it's work. So I think just like look at what you think is like the most important thing to you, like the impact it's having on you, what sort of control you want to have, and then think about like practical ways that can help you with that. And maybe read Digital Minimalism, because it's an amazing book that I recommend almost every week. It's difficult to say. Like,
there's lots to take in.
Yeah,
lots to take in. Yeah, and I just hope anyone who's listening to this who've been thinking about this, I hope they've been able to get those small steps, little kind of things that they didn't really think about, and they can come away and go, okay, this is really positive. I'm going to do something proactive today and just take that little step to, sorting out my digital footprint. So I think they'll be very grateful. So thanks so much for talking us through. And I really do think we could have chatted for another 3 hours.
Yeah, and just like one other thing, I think as well, like talk to people about it, like talk to people who are doing this or like interested in it, because it can be hard to find. I think one of the difficult things is like knowing what to do or like what app to use or like something like that. And there was so many things out there. So just like ask ask around and see what people are using, because people are always more than like happy to share this stuff, and that can really help. And if you know the app to use, then that can save you like an hour or two of like research and some of the mental burden of trying to kickstart some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to think about and take away. So thanks for kicking off that kind of, that whole process with not just myself, but I'm sure many people listening.
Oh, well, thanks for asking me.
To find out more about Dave Smyth, go to our show notes at creativeboom.com/podcast. That's where you can also hit subscribe and enjoy weekly episodes from us every Monday morning. Thanks again to our sponsor, Capture One, one of the most powerful photo editing softwares out there. Use Creative Boom for a 10% discount or sign up for a free trial at captureone.com. In next week's show, our final of the season, I'll be meeting Vanessa Scott, a prolific public artist and specialist in creative education.